Welcome to The Next Chapter, a show about how to move your life forward and what comes next. I'm your host, Carey Pena, co-founder of the Center for Positive Media. Hi, everyone. I'm Carey Pena, and this is The Next Chapter. I am so happy to welcome to our studio today Bex Cox and Ashley Walton. Both are certified yoga instructors now. Both have an incredible backstory to share. And I want to start by a quote that you shared with me. And this is all about the wreckage of our past and moving past that wreckage. So the two of you met in jail about 4.5 years ago. Talk about when you first met.
I was arrested for, I was still in my active addiction. So I was arrested for a fight that I'd had with my sister. And I don't really remember much, but I do remember this woman in there talking about recovery and crossroads and all the things. And when I had gotten out of jail, I had went back to using, because I remember after I had seen her at Crossroads after I'd gotten sober, and I remember her saying, "Oh my gosh, you were in jail with me." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, what did I say?" She goes, "All you were saying is that you had so many responsibilities to get to." And I'm like, "The only thing that was at my house was fentanyl pills. That's the only responsibilities I had." And we laughed about that.
When you actually got out of jail, you started using again.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So like I was not done. I was not done at all. And so I had gotten arrested March 12th of 2019. March 26th of 2019, my mother had called me and said, "I'm done with you. I'm going to start grieving your death. Like, I'm done." And I immediately was like, I can't lose my mother. I can't lose my mother. So I was like, "Come and get me and take me to a detox." And she did. And here I am 4.5 years later.
And it was fortuitous that the two of you met, because Bex, you also had your own really tough journey. You were a user for quite a long time as well.
Yeah. So when Ashley's speaking of like the progression of like how it starts, mine's pretty similar. You know, drinking in high school, they call them designer drugs like ecstasy, ketamine, you know, just party drugs. And so mine was like this long progression of it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And for me, she shares that she wasn't an IV user. I was pretty quickly. And so what that looked like for me was it progressed into pain pills, just like Ashley said. Oxycodone we were talking about that. It was pretty easy to get from doctors that were writing pretty liberal scripts in that time period. And then that becomes too expensive, and they joke around in the recovery community saying it's a financial responsibility to go to heroin because it's cheaper. And so that's what that looks like.
That's a joke in the recovery community.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like we laugh about the past. Like, it's not so funny, but you have to laugh because this is how we get through it. And so
if you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's both.
Yeah, sometimes it's both.
So for me, that was going to IV heroin and then using IV meth as well. And that was quickly a road to no employment, homelessness, living out of my car, having multiple surgeries from abscesses, and having a bad immune disorder. I think I've had probably 7 different surgeries on my arms and even one on my face from just, you know, like the lifestyle.
How old were you at the time, for context for the audience? So, I mean, actually, I do a lot of reporting on homelessness. I mean, that's really rough stuff when you say that you like hit that point.
Yeah. Very similar to Ashley's story. My family was housing some of my things, and I could go there and I could shower and I could eat and maybe sleep. And they got to the point where they said, "You're no longer allowed to come to our home." And at that point, I was kind of like, how dare you? But I also kind of understood. Like, they're doing this because I'm living a lifestyle that's unhealthy and unsafe, and they're protecting themselves. So that was kind of the point where like I considered myself completely homeless. Like, I had no home to even shower in. And so I didn't ever have a period like where I slept on the street. My homelessness was I had my car to be in, but that was what that looked like to me, or bouncing around from different hotel to different hotel.
How long did that go on? And you were in your 20s?
I like to lie about my age,
Okay.
so.
All right, I got you, girl. I won't pin you down on a age.
I was in my 30s.
Okay.
And it wasn't a super long period of time, but it was a rough period of time. I would say it was a 9-month period where I was completely homeless.
When you both sit here and share the story, and I want to thank you both because I think it's so courageous, honestly. Like a part of me would want to just bury that and like, because you're both beautiful girls, like you could just be like, hey, that's in the past. I'm a yoga instructor now. And but there's a reason you're telling the story. And I find that super courageous. But when you retell it and you think about all of the things you went through, there's a lot of trauma there.
Yeah.
I mean, does it hurt? Does it hurt to retell these stories?
That's a very good question. It just depends, because sometimes when we share our stories over and over and over again, sometimes there's a piece that like, oh my goodness, why am I crying right now? So sometimes our bodies, what I've learned with doing yoga and things like that, and being self-aware of our bodies, there's sometimes that our trauma comes when you least expect it. So the trauma it's always there. It just comes in different waves, I guess. But the cool thing with growing and learning and figuring out who we are today is I was talking to my sponsor a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, about how in recovery, because she's like, oh my gosh, Ash, she's like, because I have had my sponsor since the very beginning. And she's like, looking at you now versus looking at the woman I met 4.5 years ago, she goes, you have done so much. And she's like, seriously, look at me. You have done so much. And it's crazy because I don't see that. I just see who I am today, because in the recovery world, we're constantly, how do I get better? How do I get better? How do I get better? Perfect. Accomplished that. What can I do next? Always focusing on the solution and never the problem, and always wanting to be a better version of ourselves, that I forget to like live in the present and be grateful for the things that I have accomplished. And sometimes the trauma comes up through that. But it's a beautiful thing to see. And like when others recognize the greatness in you long before you do, long before you do, because we're just doing it. We're doing the next right thing. We're trying to help everybody, help ourselves, and stay sober. So it's really cool.
How hard is that, staying sober?
In the past, I would say it was hard for me. I've had a couple tries at recovery. I've had 30 days here, 90 days here. I had a period of, I want to say 11 months where I was really like in it, doing everything I possibly could, but it still felt very difficult for me to be sober. And I remember these thoughts were always like, maybe you could go back to that doctor and get a script. Maybe you could use Xanax and nobody would know. There was always these thoughts. I don't have that this time around for these last 5 years. I don't know exactly what it is. It's probably a combo of different things, but it's also just God. We call it God, when you can't explain it, but things just happen. I don't feel like it's difficult to stay sober, but I wouldn't say that that's like everybody's experience. That's just my personal experiences this time around. It hasn't been that difficult.
Because a lot of what you're sharing right now is empowerment, is inspiration.
Yes.
We've walked through these things. We've made mistakes and we've reconciled those things. We're taking ownership, but here's where we are going.
Yes.
How does that feel?
Amazing. I just got chills too.
Me
too. Knowing how far we have come, and I'm going to get emotional. See, you never know when you're going to get emotional. Knowing how far I have come, and that I can bring this peace, especially with yoga, to other women. I can't put it into words what it does for me. Yeah, there are no words. It's just a feeling of like,
How proud are you of yourself sitting
proud.
here today?
So proud. I'm so proud that I can be a mother to my daughter. Most importantly. See, you never know. I talk about this all the time. She's on her first little field trip out of town today, so I'm like missing her, but I'm so proud that I can be there for her. Luck, and the best thing about my little girl, she'll be 11 in January, and she's there. She goes to the meetings with us. She knows all about recovery.
She knows the story.
Oh, not to the depths, but she knows at her capacity. The older she's gotten, I tell her a little bit more, but she knows about sobriety. She knows that mommy is sober and mommy's friends are sober. Bex is her fave. Oh my goodness. She has nicknames for everybody. It's Bexine. So is Bexine going to be there? Because again, we celebrate and we celebrate the greatness and we celebrate all of our milestones. So and it's constant. Our lives are so full now. And some days I'm like, we have so much to do. And I'm like, no, thank you, God. Thank you that my life is full of this greatness and not chaos anymore. And not that dark room in the sea of foils. I'm able to be present. I'm able to be there for my daughter, my mother, my best friends, my fiance. Like, I'm able to be there for people. And that alone, it means more to me than anything. Because as addicts, we're selfish. Like, even without drugs or alcohol, like, I'm a selfish person and I have to constantly work on myself so that I don't think of, what do I feel? What do I feel? Screw what I feel. How is Riley feeling today? How are they, it's a constant work in progress, but I'm just so grateful that I'm able to be present and show up for others.
That is so beautiful. And Bex, how do you feel about where you stand today? And are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. It started when I was a client in treatment. I started to feel proud of myself for little things like showering, brushing my hair, making my bed, finishing my chore. And that has turned into building a yoga studio, getting yoga certified.
I want to just for a second stop you there because I want people listening. Sometimes we think accomplishments have to be huge things, right? Like, we've done all of this. And what you just said, I think, is so profound. I was proud of myself for showering, brushing my teeth, like doing average things. But for you, that was an accomplishment. And when you start to build on those little things, inch stones rather than milestones, it can become something so huge.
Right.
I think that's incredible.
Yep. It just starts so small. And that is like one of our messages to the women that we work with now is like, just start small, and that's within yoga too. Like, if you can't touch your toes, show me where you can touch, and then we'll warm up and we'll see where you can touch after. And life accomplishments come with just little baby steps, and then we look back and we've come this far, but it's just the little things at first.
So the both of you are working together at, and this podcast is shared out, nationally, internationally, but you work together at a facility called Crossroads, which is located in Arizona in the Phoenix metro area. And you have built this yoga studio together. And a lot of what you focus on now is this really intentional healing, mindfulness, and the inch stones that you can help the women that you deal with every day.
Yeah. Being able to bring what we found with the yoga, the physical activity of it, right? But then also we found a spiritual aspect of it, and we found a weight loss component, and just all of these different things that we weren't expecting. We thought, we need to bring this to our clients. They need to have this in recovery. And we've been supported, and we've been able to make that happen. We just, this Saturday, had our very first sound healing, and the clients got to experience sound healing within the yoga studio. And so it's like, these are our accomplishments. This is what we dreamed of.
I know.
And we've gotten to do it. Pretty crazy.
How has the reception been? Sound healing, that's a new thing for a lot of people. Just sitting quietly and hearing they ring the bells and they do a variety of things that I find so incredible. For some people to calm your mind long enough to listen to that and to just be there still is hard in and of itself, right? So what has the reception been?
For yoga, it has been amazing because of the stillness is not really in there, because you get to move your body with your breath, and that kind of keeps them busy. Keep your mind busy, keep your body busy, breath to movement, and it turns into this moving meditation that is just amazing. And we throw a little game in there every once in a while, and they just love it. They are just so grateful, and they're so proud of themselves when they realize, oh my goodness, I can do this move. And it's just the little milestones, and it's just really cool to see how excited they are, because I know how much I love it and what it's done for me. So seeing that for others is just amazing.
I want to point out too that we met in jail, which is kind of a comical, it's a comical story.
It's hilarious.
And, we came from meeting in jail to going through recovery together, to working in recovery, to going to yoga school together and becoming certified. And then we both got passports, and we're going to Belize next year for a yoga retreat. Like, that is so incredible.
What? Pinch me. That's crazy. It's a dream come true. And never, somebody would have asked me 4.5 years ago when we met at Maricopa County Jail that we would be going to Belize in April of 24. I would have said.
On a healing journey.
On a healing journey.
Crazy.
Well, you both should be so proud. And, not only for your own lives, but for all of the blessings that you're bestowing on so many people. It's really incredible. What would you like the audience to come away with when they hear your story?
I always end my yoga practice when I'm teaching with, I believe in you. And I think that is so powerful. I didn't believe in myself for so long. And then I got to believe in myself again because other people believed in me. That's what it took first. And so that's what I want to tell people is believe in yourself. I believe in you. Just start small. Start with the small accomplishments, and everything is possible.
I would say wake up each morning with gratitude. Even when you can't find something to be grateful for, remember that you're breathing. You are breathing, and that is enough to be grateful for. But having a gratitude list in the morning, if it's one thing, but waking up with a grateful heart and realizing no matter who you are, people say people don't change, but that's a lie. People change.
People do change.
People change.
Life is about evolving.
Yeah.
Nobody ever has to be stuck in one place.
Exactly.
And you two are great representatives of that. I appreciate both of you. Bex and Ashley, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find out more about your work at Crossroads?
The Crossroads website.
thecrossroadsinc.org.
And you will continue to expand on this yoga movement and just bring this calm healing, because now the recovery, it's changing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
The way that you navigate how people go through recovery is changing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a big part of it. So bravo to the both of you.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. I'm Carey Pena. This is The Next Chapter.